This is Plant-Based Briefing, Tofu, What It Really Is and How to Enjoy It, Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. I'm Marian Erickson, host of this plant-based podcast where I curate, get permission, and narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Today's article is longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I read part 1 yesterday, so go back and listen to that first, and then come back here today for part 2. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Tofu, What It Really Is and How to Enjoy It, Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. Stop pressing your tofu, it really doesn't matter that much. At the risk of being controversial, I think it's a waste of time to press tofu. Instead, I just blot it dry with a clean towel and into the skillet it goes. The high water content in tofu is what makes it juicy and delicious. Why remove it? Many believe that removing the water allows tofu to absorb more of the marinade and become more flavorful. The YouTuber Sauce Stash conducted a thorough experiment that does not support such a practice. See that video linked here. I encourage you to try replicating the experiment at home and come to your own conclusions. Should you marinate tofu ahead of time? We may need to agree to disagree on this point too, but I do not marinate tofu ahead of time except when making feta-style tofu crumbs, see below. I think the idea is to have the tofu absorb the flavors all the way through. My personal preference is to enjoy the contrast between the sauce or glaze that packs a flavor punch on the outside and the mild flavor of the tofu on the inside. This practice seems to align with the most common approaches to cooking tofu in the Chinese and Japanese traditions. If you do choose to marinate tofu long before cooking, we can still be friends. You will find no shortage of recipes on the internet. In general, they'll involve a combination of acidic and sweet ingredients plus something salty. Garlic and ginger may or may not be involved at the marinade stage. Soy sauce and balsamic vinegar are popular ingredients, along with maple syrup and orange juice. Experiment with your own combinations. Nothing absolutely terrible can happen. Save time on weeknight meals with batch cooking tofu. Weeknight dinners with multiple components like bowls come together quickly when some of the building blocks are just waiting to be reheated and assembled. Tofu is a perfect candidate to be prepared ahead of time during your weekend batch cooking session. Baked tofu. Baked tofu goes well in bowls with grains and lots of vegetables, but let's be honest here, we tend to eat it all up as a snack. Depending on how long you bake it for, it can get as chewy as jerky, though I personally prefer it to be softer. Here's how I do it. 1. Preheat oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. 2. Using a clean tea towel, pat a block of firm or extra firm tofu to remove excess water. Leave it wrapped up on the side while I prepare the marinade. 3. Mix together balsamic vinegar, soy sauce, and blackstrap molasses, a sweetener that happens to be a great source of iron. I use roughly a quarter cup of the vinegar and soy sauce and 1 tablespoon of sweetener, but never actually measure it. You can get creative with the marinade ingredients, of course. 4. Unwrap the tofu and slice it into squares or triangles about 5 millimeters or a 1/4 inch thick. Dip the pieces into the marinade to coat, then lay side by side on a parchment paper covered baking sheet. 6. Bake for 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the desired consistency, flipping partway through if you remember. And 7. Let cool a little and eat it up. Refrigerate in an airtight container. Tofu feta. This is the only exception to my no advanced marinating practice when it comes to tofu, feta-style crumbs. The goal is to convey the same taste and mouthfeel as the traditional Greek dairy product, so advanced preparation allows the brine to penetrate the tofu, not just coat the surface. In addition, some olive oil helps impersonate feta more convincingly. Perfect for satisfying salads or just to enjoy with sliced tomatoes in summer. Here's my approach. 1. Using a clean towel, pat a block of calcium-set, firm or extra firm tofu to remove excess water. Leave it wrapped up on the side while preparing the brine. 2. In an airtight container large enough to contain the tofu, mix together equal-ish quantities of apple cider vinegar and lemon juice. Add a little olive oil, minced garlic, oregano, and salt. Miso paste is a great addition for extra saltiness and depth. 3. Crumble the tofu into the marinade. I prefer 1/2 inch curds, but you could dice it up if you prefer. And 4. Seal the container. Toss it this side and that to cover every piece of tofu with marinade and refrigerate for at least a day, preferably 2 or 3. Flip the container occasionally to help brine every piece equally. Note, I don't recommend using nigari-set tofu here, those with magnesium chloride, as the first ingredient after the soybeans. Improvise quick weekday meals and lunches with these easy tofu tricks. Where tofu shines brightest at home is in simple, improvised meals. Here are some ideas on how to cook tofu for quick weekday meals and lunches. Stir fries. Heat and speed are of the essence. Agile cooks can prep the veggies as they go, but beginners may want to get everything chopped before proceeding. Number 1, choose 3 vegetables of different colors and dice them. Mince 2 cloves of garlic and grate an inch's worth of ginger root. 2, preheat a heavy skillet or wok on medium-high heat. 3, drain a block of firm or extra firm tofu and pat it dry with a clean tea towel. Dice into 1.5 centimeter or 3/4 inch cubes. Number 4, once the skillet is nice and hot, sauté the tofu with a pinch of salt and fresh ground pepper, stirring every minute. You may use a teaspoon or 2 of oil like canola, peanut, or avocado, or not. After 5 minutes, the tofu should be golden on all sides. Remove from the skillet. Number 5, sauté the vegetables, starting with the most dense, for example, carrots, stirring occasionally with a pinch of salt. After 2 minutes, add another vegetable, then another. 6, after about 6 or 7 minutes total, push the vegetables aside and add the garlic and ginger. Cook until fragrant, stirring constantly, about 30 seconds. 7, return the cooked tofu to the skillet. Stir it all up and splash with approximately a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. If available, add the juice from 1 lime. You could have a fancier sauce, but simple is great. And number 8, serve on hot rice or fresh cooked noodles sprinkled with peanuts or sesame seeds. Timing is everything when stir-frying, but even if you don't execute on it perfectly, you'll have a very decent meal. Take note of what you learned and try again in a few days. Long noodle soup. This is my favorite way to enjoy medium tofu and has saved me from ordering food many, many times. 1, cook some Asian-style noodles according to package directions. When done cooking, cool them with cold water so they don't turn mushy and set aside. 2, meanwhile, prepare the soup. The absolutely easiest way to do this is to bring 4 to 6 cups of water to a boil with an appropriate amount of vegetable bouillon. Follow package directions. 3, add your vegetables, aiming for 3 of different colors. My favorite combo, diced orange sweet potatoes, diced Japanese eggplant, and chopped broccoli or bok choy. Shiitake mushroom slices are a great fit here too. 4, keep at a low boil until all vegetables are tender, about 10 to 20 minutes. 5, dice a block of medium tofu into 1-inch cubes, careful as it is fragile. 6, prepare each bowl with a handful of noodles and put a few cubes of tofu on top. Ladle the piping hot veggie soup on top along with the broth. 7, slurp away. Even better if topped with a fork full of vegan kimchi. Tofu scramble. I make tofu scramble most Saturdays at lunchtime to use up leftover veggies from the previous week's grocery run. Check out my method in this other blog post, How to Make Tofu Scramble Your Way, linked here. And lastly, creamy sauce. If you have a power blender like a Vitamix or similar, this is the ultimate quick comfort meal. 1, cook pasta according to package directions. Important, save a cup of hot water before draining. 2, throw half a block of medium or firm tofu, not extra firm, in the blender jar, along with a handful of raw cashews and some seasonings like nutritional yeast, miso paste, garlic powder, a teaspoon of mustard, a little hot sauce, maybe a splash of apple cider vinegar. If you have roasted red peppers or sun-dried tomatoes, in oil or rehydrated, add some for a rich rosé sauce. Cooked carrots will yield a nice orange sauce, perfect for macaroni noodles. Number 3, blend until smooth, adding a little bit of the pasta cooking water as needed. Number 4, return the cooked pasta to the hot pot and add sauce to taste. Add a splash of pasta cooking water to stretch the sauce as needed. Stir to coat. Number 5, add 2 big handfuls of baby greens like spinach, kale, or arugula. They will wilt right in. If you have only full-grown greens, slice into thin ribbons before adding. And number 6, sprinkle with vegan parm nuts, recipe linked here, if you have some at hand, and enjoy with a dash of hot sauce. What's your favorite way to enjoy tofu? You just listened to Tofu, What It Really Is and How to Enjoy It, Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. If you're interested in other articles about the health benefits of tofu or soy, or tofu cooking in general, wherever you listen, if you have a search function, just put in tofu and those episodes will come up. You might want to check out 161, Vegan Cooking for Beginners, Get Started the Easy Way by Brigitte Gemme of veganfamilykitchen.com, and I'll link that in the show notes as well. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.